We're live. So, this is Jordan Reese with Rightly Divide. All right, so I am doing a Rightly Divide because I was preaching at a church, specifically two Spanish churches, Sunday. It went really well. People were healed, but there was a focus on encouragement and a focus on, in one sense, basically revival. So it went really good. Morning and afternoon service. I didn't tape anything. Maybe I will next time, but I'll let you know when the next one is. And John and Ryan did a really good job. Not that they healed anybody or did anything in that sense, because that's all God. But John sang a song in Spanish, which I'm surprised he did. He's the speaker for epignosis. If you didn't know, if you don't know, it must mean you're new or you're not paying attention. So he did really good in his song, and Ryan stepped up and prayed for people. And some of the time I didn't know what they did because I was at another side of the church praying for people, but they were awesome. So I just wanted to give them a shout out. But anyways, so I'm going to debunk the phrase that we have to lie in order to protect the ones that we love. And it comes from an idea that it's okay to lie because we're doing it for a good reason. And that could go basically for any sin, which is I'm stealing, but for good reason. Another one, Robin Hood, he steals from the rich to give to the poor. And you might say, oh, I guess stealing's okay as long as I'm doing it for the poor. Or lying. I'm lying because it's so that someone's feelings are spared, or someone doesn't get hurt, or the list goes on. People even take it to the extreme of killing. They'll say, I killed them because it was for their own good, or they needed to die, or something like that. Now, sin is sin no matter what. Sin is sin no matter what. No matter what reason you have, even if it's for a good reason, it's still sin. It's still wrong. Now, some people get the idea that lying's okay because they found the scripture with Rahab in the Old Testament. I believe it's in the book of Joshua. I would have to look again, but because I looked it up a second ago. But they say Rahab lied to protect two people from Israel. But just because she did that doesn't mean God gave the stamp of approval. And to my knowledge, before that encounter, during that encounter and before that encounter, she wasn't a believer in the sense of the Old Testament. And I might turn to that scripture in a second, but she wasn't a believer in the Old Testament sense. She was just afraid of the God of Israel coming to wipe out the city. So at first, she did become a believer in God later, but at first she just didn't want to get killed. She's like, I will hide you guys, just promise that I'm not going to die when you guys take over the land. I might go to that scripture so I can tell you what I'm talking about. But people will take that scripture and say, yeah, there's certain occasions where you can lie. But it says in Exodus 20:16, put it right here. Exodus 20:16, thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor. And you might say, okay, as long as it's not against your neighbor. Now, if you look at all the 10 Commandments, obviously it's a generalized thing at first. For example, it says, "Thou shalt not kill." Does that mean every type of killing is wrong? No, because we eat animals. We have to kill them to eat them, as long as they're not being killed in a inhumane way. Um, but war, is that automatically wrong? Is execution or capital punishment, is that wrong? So obviously, if we get into the details, if you read the Bible, it gets detailed as well. So you might say, "Oh, as long as it's not against thy neighbor, it's fine. If I lie about myself, it's not bad." Well, the problem is when you lie about yourself, you're doing something against your neighbor, because then they think you're um, this person that you're not. So in one sense, you are lying against your neighbor, even if you're lying about yourself. Um, it's even not good to lie to yourself. That gets you, in one sense, you become a habitual liar, and it leads to mental illness, because you're lying to yourself and you start believing yourself, and then you get into a place where people start confronting you and going, "What are you talking about?" But anyways, but it says, "Thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor." Um, and you might say, well, and that's why they get into the Rahab situation or example. Well, they were lying against an enemy. Well, technically, Rahab was lying against her own people. She lived in that place. I mean, in a religious sense, they weren't brother and sister, but it was her people. She lied against them. So there, some people like to take that scripture and just make it a thing where it's like, okay, that means it's okay. But 1 Timothy chapter 1 verse 10 says, "For whoremongers, for them that defile themselves with mankind, for men stealers, for liars, for perjured persons, and if there be any other thing that is contrary to sound doctrine." So I looked up the Greek word for this word liars, and it means falsifier, and it means one who counterfeits or gives to a thing or deceptive appearance, or one who makes a false coin, one who invents a falsehood. So again, some people get Exodus 20 that says, "Bear false witness against thy neighbor," and they think of it in a sense of a court setting where someone, the judge or the lawyer's asking, "Is this person this?" Or, "Did you see this person do this?" And you say, "Yes." Yes, that's bearing false witness. But the Bible doesn't stick with that term, bear false witness, strictly. The Bible does use the word liar in lying, a lying tongue, deceitful tongue, all that stuff. So I'm pretty sure, I am 100% sure, when God said in the Ten Commandments that thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor, he didn't just mean in one sense. And that one sense of lying is okay. So if in the New Testament it said it, I'll read it again. Falsifier, one who counterfeits or gives to a thing a deceptive appearance, or one who makes a false coin, one who invents a falsehood. So that's not a court setting. It doesn't sound like. It sounds like someone who will, not in a court setting, but lie to get something out of people, lie to get out of things. So you might say, give me some examples. Well, for example, I think everyone can relate to this one, which is the people that say your Netflix account is being affected and you need to give this money or whatever. Or, we're going to call the police if you don't call us back to pay off this certain thing, or you everyone's gotten those calls. I haven't gotten them lately, but there was a point several years ago, it was every day and constantly. Um, your Apple account has been compromised, and you need to call us and give us money for this. Um, I think the most common one was with taxes, where they say you owe this amount to the IRS, and if you don't call right now, we're going to call the police. And that they would leave those voicemails. So if you didn't know any better, you would pick it up immediately and say, "What do I need to do?" And they've really taken advantage of a lot of people, the people that have done that, and have taken thousands, maybe even millions of dollars. There's reports about people who have taken advantage of the COVID relief funds and business related funds, and they've lied about it and have taken millions. I think millions at this point. You have to look it up. And so lying is never good. Now, the reason people don't like to tell the truth, or what I should say is this: people prefer to lie because it's easier to lie than tell the truth at certain moments. And that's true. If you know you're going to get in trouble for something, or fired, or lose status, or whatever, and they know that's going to happen, then yes, of course it's easier to lie out of it. Did you do this? Nope. Never. I never did. Never saw that person do it, etc. The problem with, and I know it's sounds like everyone says that, but the problem with lying is, first of all, God's right there. I spoke about this on Sunday at the Spanish churches. You have to know that God is literally with you 24/7. He's with you every day, at every moment. And when you are not telling the truth to someone, then that means that that person may be deceived, but God's right there saying that's not true, or he knows what you're saying is not true. And you have to so that's number one. Number two is that a lie, and like I said, that everyone says this, but it's still true. When you start lying, then you have to keep it up. You have to keep up a lie, depending on the situation. And you might say, well, there's certain lies where it doesn't really affect anybody, and it's just a one-time thing, and then it's one and done. The problem with that type of thinking is that when you get comfortable with lying, you're going to get found out. And so, and then there's, I can go on and on, but once you lie and someone finds out, even if it was for the smallest thing, the worst thing that you can have is people not trusting you. And even if you lie for the smallest thing, why should I trust you? Or why should a person trust you? Because if they're, now obviously if someone's willing to make an elaborate lie where it's huge, for lack of better words, it's a great lie, yeah, I wouldn't trust that person. But even if it was for a small thing, what makes you think that that person won't lie for bigger things? And so big or small, you shouldn't be lying, because again, if you get found out, people just will stop trusting you. And that's that is a bad position to be in, that people don't trust you. And when you get into church, that's even worse, when you're trying to work for the church and you say, man, I want to be in the church, I want to serve. And if they can't, people can't, pastor can't trust you, staff can't trust you, then that's a really bad position to be in. And people, sin is easy to forgive. Trust is not easy to get back. So while as Christians we're supposed to forgive, God tells us to do that. But so pastors and staff could forgive you of lying or other things that you've done wrong, but trust, you can't just go, okay, start trusting me. No. Now you have to spend time earning trust back. And all that could be avoided if you just tell the truth from the very moment. Since truth is established, truth is truth, there's nothing after that. You just say, oh, this is the truth, done. It's settled right then and there. Now, people, you could be someone that tells the truth, but they don't believe you. Not that it's your fault that they don't trust you, but there's some people who you tell the truth and they just don't want to believe you. Okay, that's on them because you already told the truth. You already did what you're supposed to do. You told the truth. So that's on them for being like that. So I'm just going to end it there. But don't lie for any reason. And I'll have to get into Rahab. Maybe I'll make it a portion of my show next time I'm on. That to get into Rahab and why people think it's okay to, like, because Rahab lied, that there's certain times where you could lie. And yeah, I'm not going to get into it because I promised the show would be 15 minutes less. But anyways, catch John for Epignosis at Friday. He did a really good show on the concept of infinity. And if you got it the first time, awesome. And this is not a knock on his show. I'm just saying it was so full of depth that I have to listen to it again. Because he really did a good connection between that concept of infinity and I can't even remember the details, like, specifically because I got to listen to it again. But he just connected it to God, and it was really good. And some things are have a lot of information. And again, there's not a knock. But there's shows and books that have a lot of information that you just got to reread it, and it just clicks. That's me a lot of times, rather reread it and whatnot. But anyways, and then Ryan with their show with Do Tell. She is just going through like a type of series. They're different subjects, but they're part of a big series. I know the shows Do Tell, but what I'm saying is she's doing a series that involve different subjects, and it's been good. So anyways, have a good night, and I will see you this Sunday on the next episode of Rightly Divide.